Gathering Arena has a new format. What do you need to know? I am Cinder Shadow, and today we're going to talk about the new Magic the Gathering Arena-only format, Alchemy. I've got thoughts on this. We're going to get into those, but first, let's take a look at what the format actually is. A new format, sort of. They're making a digital-only format for only Magic the Gathering Arena. Now, what's different from this to other formats is it's going to follow the lead of Standard, which is so many sets, up to 8 sets legal at a time, the newest sets of Magic the Gathering. However, with a bit of a twist, what they're doing is they're going to rebalance some of the current Standard cards and throw them into this new format called Alchemy. Well, first thing first, the only thing that comes to mind is this their way of trying to stop having to ban all these cards that need to be banned in these formats, because there is just so much overpowered power creep in the game right now that they've got to do something, and this seems to be the direction they want to go. They don't want to ban the cards, because when you ban a card, sales take a dip, and people get angry because they just spent everything they had on those cards, and now in Arena you could do that. But this doesn't change how Standard in particular acts for a banning. If a banning still needs to happen, it needs to happen in Standard, and it will. You just happen to see a hyperinflation on the amount of decks that run certain cards because it's the internet. It's easier to pick up a deck and play it when you can see it every day and every hour, every minute you're on Magic the Gathering Arena. Today we're going into a bit of the Alchemy stuff. I'm going to put a slideshow below me here. It's a mixture of some Standard cards and some of the new cards that are also being introduced in the Alchemy stuff. But take a look at some of the versions of the Standard cards, because they have changed certain texts and certain rules on them as well. All these cards will be legal in Historic. Some cards are getting completely and utterly nerfed this way. Nerfed meaning they're taking away certain abilities. And some cards are going to get buffed, and they're going to be better than their original predecessor was. I don't see the point in this. This is it's going to create a nightmare scenario with Arena. They've already got too many issues with the client, too many issues with the game being stable, and now they're adding in confusion for players and everyone alike. Which card is going to be legal in what format? Now I have 2 cards that are labeled the same, and they're changing the rules on one of them. Which one can I use? How can I use it? When can I use it? And where? Like, that doesn't make any sense to go forward with something like this when we've done Historic anthologies in the past for Historic, and I have to say those Historic anthologies have just ruin the format to the point that they've added in way too much power creep into the Historic format way too quickly, and it just didn't adjust like it needed to. It was originally, the Historic format was supposed to become parity with Pioneer, and now that can never happen because they added all these extra cards, and they keep adding these cards that just will never work in Pioneer, or they don't work in paper. Like one of the new abilities being Perpetuate can only track in a digital format, and we already see this fragmentation in Standard and Arena, where you have the best of one version of Standard because they've added all these extra cards that are kind of hidden in the clientele that are only legal in best of one. If you want to play Standard and you want to play the way it's supposed to be played, you play best of 3 with sideboarding. That will give you your true benefit of the game. But best of 1 has degraded a little bit because of all these extra cards. And now, instead of doing a best of 1 scenario, they're introducing this new format, Alchemy. I don't see the point to this. I just see it being a complete and utter disaster and probably going to be falling flat on its face. Mostly because now they're adding in a new type of booster pack into the game that's going to be the Alchemy booster pack, that's going to have the Alchemy rare and the standard rare if you open a standard rare. If you don't, and you get one of the alchemy cards, well, you don't get a standard rare, and it's legal in historic. This will take muchly needed resources away from you being able to build your collections properly in standard and be able to play in standard and not in alchemy. I don't see alchemy becoming the next championship format, because there's just too many variables that are digital only, and then you get completely away from standard and you get away from the actual card game. And I think that might be the biggest thing that they're trying to do here, is give Magic the Gathering Arena its own identity. But the identity of Arena is a supplementary product to Magic the Gathering, where you can sit there and play at home online and play constantly and have firing and just be able to play the game. But then when they throw in all these extra things, it just becomes too much for the clientele to handle. It really seems. Every new set, every time they've added a bunch of new cards to the game, the client suffers, and the quality of life for the game is suffering big time. We just had a situation here where they tried to roll out several patches and hotfixes, and they actually rolled it back to like November 19th, 2 weeks ago at this point. That's a little bit much if you're having to roll back out of the system. That goes to show you how unstable the system actually is. And to me, it seems like it's a tipping point, and I hope the game continues, because I do like playing the game. Now, on with Alchemy. They're making an ever-evolving play mode, so cards will always be able to be changed in this mode, much like Hearthstone is. So if they need to nerf something or buff something, they're going to do it. And, well, what does this do? This turns around and avoids cards being banned in the digital format. It fixes them, they say, then turning around and banning them and then rewarding wildcards for banning. Now, every time they ban a card, they've been giving us wildcards, and this is the step towards not being able to do that. This is going to say, hey, the cards are legal and perfectly fine, just play it in this format instead. This is not what people wanted. I think they're trying to grasp at straws here, trying to put this forward. New to digital cards, they've got 63 new cards. Well, these 63 new cards you're going to have to try and collect if you want to stay relevant in historic. They're going to be very powerful. They're going to outdo certain cards of the past, and you're just spending more wild cards, having to pump more money into the game to be able to continue to play it. And then rebalancing Magic cards. Alchemy features rebalancing versions of standard cards to shake up the meta for digital play. Well, we don't want to shake up the meta. Make a banned play queue and make an unbanned play queue. You've done this every year when it comes to the end of the season, just before rotation happens. Just make it solely ban a list of cards and open it up as a play queue, and that's what you guys have called standard shakeup. Just do that, open that up, let people play ranked games in there, and they'll be fine. This just perpetuates more trying to make a gold sink and trying to make where they always get your wild cards out of you and you never have them. Personally, you never have enough rare wild cards. There isn't a situation where you can turn around and take your commons and uncommons and get rid of them and trade them in for rare wild cards, unless right at the start of a new set you spend all those uncommon and commons on cards of that set. Then as you open those sets, it fills your vault up faster, and then you get two rares and a mythic once you open the vault. So that is one way around it. I've seen a couple videos where people have finally starting to talk about this. I've said this since the innovation, since the start of this game. Why don't you just spend all your uncommons and commons, and then you can just do that? I did this back in War of the Spark. So back in War of the Spark, I had a ton of wild cards that were rare and mythic rares, and I was able to move forward from that, always being able to build my decks that I want to. That was what I did. So if you're sitting on 300 to 400 commons and uncommons, spend them all on the next set. Just waste them all, and you'll be able to trade up for your rares and mythics very easily, very quickly. It's one way around it. They're coming out with the Tri-Alchemy. They're giving you 3 alchemy boosters, 6 alchemy ICRs or individual card rewards, and 1 alchemy mythic rare. These are all going to be rebalanced, or they're going to be in particular with that format, which will mostly be used for historic. This being its own format is going to be really difficult to, I think, get games going, because I don't see how people are really going to be drawn to this. I don't see the draw to this. You're going to either play standard or historic, which is what people do right now. Are you going to sit there and play alchemy? Personally, tell me in the comments down below, are you going to play this format? Who will play this format? I don't see how people are actually going to play this format. Where do I see new to digital cards? We're previewing more of them. It's coming out in the next few days. Where can I see the rebalanced cards? They've got a few on the live stream, and we have a few here scrolling. How do I play Arch Enemy? It's either best of 1 or best of 3, both ranked and unranked. They're making this another ranked format, so you can go there. If the meta is shifted a little bit, maybe you can slide in there. I don't see where this is going to go. This is going to create a possible path where you can get up there into the mythic qualifiers, and then when you go to play in that mythic qualifier, if you're playing with these rebalanced cards, but then the mythic qualifier won't be these rebalanced cards, it'll be the traditional standard set. Now it gives you a false sense of security, and you will actually fail more often than not, because now they've set you up to fail. How much do alchemy boosters cost? They're going to be 1,000 gold or 3,000 gems for 15 packs. Same price as standard set boosters. Or standard boosters. I'm not calling them set boosters, because set boosters are their own thing in the real world. That's a little bit different. They're going to have a special alchemy bundle containing 20 boosters available for 3,000 gems or 15,000 gold. Limit 1 per person. So for the same price, you can get a standard booster, or you can get an alchemy booster. You get an alchemy booster. If you open a standard rare in it, you also get the rebalanced version in alchemy at the same time. But if you don't open a standard rare, you do not get a standard rare. That's the big trade-off. That's the trade-off. If you open standard, you're going to get standard product. If you don't open standard, you're not necessarily going to get a standard product, and thus you're going to actually waste a little bit if you're trying to build decks, if you're trying to move forward. It also doesn't mention if you're going to get wildcards. I don't believe you get wildcards in alchemy boosters, which is another drawback. Now you're trading your 1,000 gold for a booster pack that will not give you a wildcard, where standard boosters and historic boosters do. From what I'm reading here, it does not sound like an alchemy booster will. I also don't know if it will move the wheel. If you open an alchemy booster, will it move the wheel? Will you get wildcards every 6th booster you open? That'll be interesting to know, and I have a sneaking suspicion the wheel will still move, but you're not going to get wildcards in particular in alchemy boosters. How do I collect alchemy cards? Players can purchase alchemy boosters from the store using wildcards of the appropriate rarity, yada yada yada. Players can collect rebalanced alchemy cards in both alchemy and adjacent standard boosters. Alchemy boosters will contain new to digital magic cards, rebalance cards, and cards from adjacent standard set, i.e. Crimson Vow. No wild cards. They don't list wild cards there, so I don't think you're going to get them in there. When you receive a rebalance card from an alchemy booster, you will also receive the standard version of the card, so only if you get the rebalance version. The same is true when opening a standard booster that contains a card that has been rebalanced for alchemy. You will receive both versions of the cards. Don't even pay attention to these boosters. Just open standard boosters. If there's rares that you need or new versions of newer cards in here, because there's only like 63, use your wild cards on them. Don't even open alchemy boosters. There's no point to them. None. What is the point of this? What is the point of opening alchemy boosters? You open it up in standard, you're going to get the alchemy rare. It says it right here. Like, There's no point. And in the standard booster, you're going to open wild cards. Where in an alchemy booster, it doesn't look like you're going to get wild. It's a roll of the dice, and if you guys think that's the way to go, then go that way, but I'm telling you now, it's not going to be worth it. What if I've already collected cards that have been rebalanced in alchemy? Players who will already get them. How does duplicate protection work on alchemy boosters? Well, the modified version of duplicate protection. When opening an alchemy booster, it will prioritize the new to digital magic cards created in the current alchemy set. So if you already own 4 of each thing that is in the alchemy booster that has been rebalanced, which in a lot of cases people probably do, you're just going to open up a alchemy rare anyway, and it'll be playable in historic. If you've collected play sets of all new alchemy cards, then it moves into an adjacent standard rare. Instead, you don't get gems. So unless you own all of the standard rares, you won't get gems. If you are set complete in both alchemy and adjacent standard set, normal duplicate protection rules apply. Once again, I don't see the draw to open an alchemy booster. You can craft an open booster containing a card rebalance for alchemy. You will receive both the standard and the alchemy version of the set. You will not need to collect them separately. How often should we expect balance changes? We currently plan to release new alchemy sets in the weeks following the adjacent standard release, and continuing on. So about a week later, they're going to come out with rebalanced versions of cards that they know are problematic. Alun's Epiphany, Foretell cost is the same as its casting cost, and only if it's Foretell you create birds. Not going to fix the problem with the card. Eska's Chariot only makes 1 cat token instead of 2. Faceless Haven becomes a 3/3 instead of a 4/3. The problem with Faceless Haven is that it counts as every creature type. The power of 4 to 3 means absolutely squat. Goldspan Dragon. Well, this one's a little bit different. Goldspan Dragon, it only creates the treasure token on attack, not when it's targeted. That's a lot better for this card, I have to say, because every time it's been targeted, it then have mana for a counterspell or a way to save the card, and it gives a way to protect itself, and that's why the card is so good. Luminarch Aspirant, instead of it being during combat or before combat, it's going to give a 1/1 counter at the end of your turn. Omnath, instead of drawing a card, it scries one. That doesn't fix anything. Cosmos Elixir. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card if your life total is greater than your starting life total. Otherwise, you gain 2 life and scry 1, where originally it doesn't give you the scry 1. So that's a buff, actually, on Cosmos Elixir, which the card is already very powerful. It didn't need a buff. Demi-Lich, they go from a 4/3 to a 4/4. Like, the card is already broken. Class enchantments, so on Druid level, level 3 costs 2 and a green instead of 4 and a green, and same with the Wizard class, they lowered it, so they're giving buffs to these cards. And in Pylath World Sculptor, they gave it trample, and then whenever you play a land, on top of the counters, they get trample. Like, that the trample was never needed on this card, and so they're making upgraded versions of these cards, but if you already own 4 of these cards, then you're already going to have the upgraded version for historic, and now you're going to go into the deck building trying to build a historic deck, and then suddenly you're like, well, which one do I put in there? Because you're going to have 2 different cards that say the same thing, but one has one symbol on it, one has another symbol on it, and you have to watch very carefully for that A symbol at the very bottom of the card. Origins of Alchemy, I'm not even going to go over it because this format is not going to survive. I see it falling flat on its face. One of the new cards they're adding is Absorb Energy here for 2 blue and a colorless. Counter target spell. Cards in your hand share a card type that with that spell protection and perpetually gain. This spell costs 1 less to cast. So if you counter a creature, all your creature spells in your hand cost 1 less to cast forever. It's not an emblem. The biggest thing that people hate about emblems is you have no way of getting rid of them. This is something now that it just gets digitally tracked with Arena. You can never do this in real life because it has to be digitally tracked. Sure, that's one thing they can do. You got Iska, Broodmother. It's a spider 3/5 for 4. Other spiders you control get +1/+2. For a green or a black and 1, exile 2 cards from your graveyard. Draft a card from Iska's Broodmother's spellbook. So apparently this card comes with its own booster pack. That's going to be something very peculiar to see. Forsaken Crossroads, when it enters the battlefield, tap. As Forsaken Crossroads enters the battlefield, choose a color. When Forsaken Crossroads enters the battlefield, scry 1. If you weren't the starting player, you may untap Forsaken Crossroad instead. Add 1 mana of any color. Sure. Tolraph's Disciple. I just saw this card, and this shouldn't exist. This will need to be completely banned immediately. This is going to be a complete breaker of games. It's a 1 red 2 generic. It's a 3/3 human warrior with haste. When it attacks, conjure, so suddenly add to wherever it is, 4 cards named Lightning Bolt into your library. Shuffle. Every time it attacks, you get 4 lightning bolts into your library. So you pair this with some card that starts to give you card draw, and you just bolt the people to death. You bolt the bird. You bolt your opponent, and they're dead. You add in some more attacks with this thing, an extra turn. You're just going to draw lightning bolt after lightning bolt after lightning bolt. Who wouldn't want a deck of 20 lightning bolts? Well, guys, this is your proud Canadian Phoenix signing off. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you all next time. Until then, have fun.
That just sounds
Fanning
with extra steps.
Ooh la la, someone's gonna get late.
Playing Magic the Gathering.